Hello and welcome to MSE 312, Mechanical Behavior of Materials at Boise State University. This video is meant as a short introduction to the course and to me as your instructor. Why should we even be interested in mechanical behavior? Why does it matter? Well, the pictures in the top row here show a little bit about why we should be concerned. This is showing a failure in an engine. Here's a failure in a bike frame and a rather devastating failure on a smartphone screen. In each of these cases, we might be interested to know, why did that happen? Was it designed poorly? Was it misused? What caused that failure? We might also be interested in some pretty interesting materials. So in this case, how is it that this pole vaulter pole is designed in order to be so elastic, right? It can bend quite a lot and go back to being straight. This bike is made out of carbon fiber, which has not only a very light weight, but a high stiffness and other important material properties. This is showing some ball bearings, which are made out of a ceramic material that have very high weight wear resistance. Other interesting mechanical properties show up in the materials used in designing the space shuttle, in the cables that are used to suspend the Golden Gate Bridge, and even in the material that these little Legos are made out of, which make them so incredibly impact resistant, not to mention very painful when you step on them on the floor. So mechanical behavior is all around us, and it's important for us to understand a little bit about why materials have the properties that they do and how we might improve those properties if we needed to. Let me tell you a little bit about myself now. I was born and grew up in Rockford, Illinois, right here in northern Illinois. Lived there until I went to undergrad. I did my undergrad at Northwestern University, which is in Evanston, Illinois. I stayed, in fact, to do my master's degree as well. Both of those were in materials science and engineering. After I finished my master's degree, I went and worked at Caterpillar for a year and a half as a research engineer. One of the neatest things that I got to do while I was there was spend a week learning how to drive all of the equipment. My favorite was the excavator, although this is not me shown in this picture. After working for a year and a half at Caterpillar, I went on to get my PhD from MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. MIT is situated right here on the Charles River, across the river from Boston. I lived there for 3 years before moving to Boise in 2005 to begin working at Boise State. Now that I live in Boise, I've become very interested in many outdoor activities, including cycling, skiing, and hiking. This is on a recent ride in the foothills, headed down from Bogus Basin all the way back down to the Treasure Valley floor. Let me tell you a little bit about my background and my beliefs about teaching. In the many years that I've been teaching at Boise State, I've come to understand some important things about how teaching and learning work. And let me tell you about some of the things that I believe in. The first one is about being transparent. That means that I try to communicate very clearly about what it is that I expect you to do and why it is that I'm asking you to do that. Sort of, what's the value in it for you? What are the criteria for how you'll be evaluated, and so on. I also believe in making the most of our time together. So in this class, for most days of class, you will do some reading and watch some videos to prepare ahead of time outside of a class, so that in the time that we have together, which is really quite limited, we will be able to work on example problems. You can get your questions answered. You can work together with your classmates to really develop a stronger understanding of the materials. The next thing is giving you some skills that can translate beyond your course. So part of that is about helping you to develop a growth mindset, to learn some cognitively active study behaviors, which I'll talk about in just a minute, and so on. The next is that I believe in giving students a choice in their learning. So in a number of the assignments that you will have in the course this semester, you'll get to choose your topic. You might even get to choose how you present the results. So you could write a paper, you could make a video, you could make a poster. I think that this makes it a little bit more fun for you. Another thing that I believe in is really helping you to understand the concepts. So While it's certainly important that as an engineer you're able to plug the numbers into the equation and churn out an answer, I'm actually more interested in, do you understand the answer? Do you understand why the material behaves in that way? Does that answer make sense? Why or why not? Can you explain to other people? So a lot of our work in MSE 312 will be around developing your conceptual understanding. Another is in giving you a chance to collaborate. That does not mean that every assignment will be a team assignment. In fact, that will be very rare in this class. But I will give you many opportunities in class to work together with your classmates. That's helpful in many ways. If the material comes easily to you, it gives you a chance to further refine your understanding by explaining it to others. If you need a little bit more time with the material, working with your peers will give you a chance to ask them questions and learn from them as well. The last thing is that I am always busy reflecting on what works and what doesn't in my teaching. Not everything will be perfect. And so I ask you to bear with me this semester, help me understand what works for you and what doesn't, and I will be constantly thinking about what has worked and what ways could I improve this course. Let me tell you a little bit about how I designed the course, though. The first thing that I did is that I figured out what I wanted you to know or be able to do at the end of the semester. So I started with the end in mind. The next thing I did was to figure out how I'll know if you've learned those things. So for example, if I want you to be able to connect the microscopic structure of a material with the macroscopic properties, I need to ask myself, what would it look like if you knew how to do that? That essentially means that I came up with the assignments. The next step, though, was to come up with the activities to support your learning. So I can't ask you to do a big project if you haven't learned the component pieces along the way. And you won't learn that simply from listening to me lecture. You'll learn that instead by engaging in activities that allow you to practice. The last step, make sure it's all consistent. There shouldn't be surprises for you in this course. If I've designed it in a way that the activities and the assignments support the goals at the end. So what will you be learning in MSE 312? Here are the 6 things that I expect that you'll learn by the end of the semester. The first, you'll connect the microscopic features of materials with their macroscopic behavior. You'll also be able to explain the ways that testing is used to determine the properties of materials. It's important that you'll be able to calculate or predict the response of a material to an applied stress state. Will the thing deform? Will it break? Do we expect that plastic deformation will occur? And so on. We'll also spend time learning to evaluate materials for their suitability. So, is this ceramic suitable in this application? Does this alloy have a high enough yield strength? And so on. We'll also make sure to cover methods to improve the mechanical properties of materials. So if we wanted to increase the yield strength of a polymer material, for example, how might we go about doing that? And finally, we'll analyze some of the ethical issues that you may face as a practicing engineer. You'll need the following things to succeed in MSE 312. The first is a copy of the textbook that we will be using by Roessler. On nearly every day of class, I'll give a reading assignment that comes out of this textbook. I will try to be as specific as I can about the pages that you should read, and I have found a couple of errors in the book and will note those along with the reading assignment. It will also be very useful to have a copy of Callister, the text you used in your Intro to MSE course. Many days will also include a reading assignment from Callister, and while you don't have to do that, it will serve as good background if you need to go into a sort of more basic level before you dive into the textbook. The last thing that you'll want to be sure to have is a 3-ring binder. There will be lots of handouts in this class of the activities that we work on a day-to-day basis, and it will be very much to your advantage to keep these organized in a 3-ring binder. I wanted to just share one note here about the schedule with you regarding the timing of assignments in this class. So the assignments are scheduled in such a way so that you have time to work with the concepts on an assignment before the quiz. So sometimes that means that a quiz comes a little bit after the fact, or that the assignment comes sooner or comes a little bit later, but I want to make sure that you first see the material in class, have time to do an assignment on it, and then take the quiz after the fact. On some of the projects that you have, I have implemented multiple due dates. The reason for this is to help you keep on track. I know how students work. I work this way sometimes also, which is that you leave things till the last second. But I don't want you to leave all of this to the last second. It's important that we're making progress along the way. So on some of the assignments, there are intermediate due dates that ask you to have completed a particular part of the project. Another useful thing about this is that it means that you'll be able to get feedback along the way and make sure that you're making progress in a useful way. One last note, I've also tried to schedule things so that there's only one big thing due in any given week. I think there's maybe 1 week where that didn't happen, but in general, that is the way that the schedule will work out. I hope that you are looking forward to MSE 312, as I am very much looking forward to working with all of you. Please make sure to take a minute to watch the video about how to succeed in this course, which has some additional tips about strategies that you might use in order to be a successful student in MSE 312.